with our video number 6 Lent challenge. We'll call this Taking the Leap. Mother Angelica once advised, unless you're willing to do the ridiculous, God will not do the miraculous. There have been times in my life when God has told me to do something that seemed to make no sense at all. In fact, God has a very big history of making unusual requests. He asked Abraham to sacrifice his son, told Moses to hold up his hands and the Red Sea would part, and many other things. Now in the Gospel of St. Luke, we're going to read that God made a very unusual request to Simon Peter. Jesus wanted to teach the crowds gathered on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, so he just jumped into Peter's boat and told him to go out a short distance into the water. At this point, Peter probably did not know Jesus very well. Peter did not even invite Jesus onto the boat. Jesus just jumped in. After teaching the crowds, Jesus told Peter to do something that seemed ridiculous, and I will read from the Gospel of St. Matthew. Jesus said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and lower your nets for a catch." Simon said in reply, "Master, we have worked all night and have not caught anything, but at your command I will lower the nets." When they had done this, they caught a great number of fish, and their nets were tearing. The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Peter, an experienced fisherman by trade, knew that it would be futile to go out and throw the nets in again, but he did it anyway, just because Jesus told him to do it, and the results were amazing. I think Jesus works in my life, and maybe in everyone's life, the same way he did with Peter. Jesus enters unexpectedly, without even waiting for an invitation. For me, it is not usually during prayer that Jesus would make himself known. Often it happens while I'm walking in a parking lot, driving on the freeway, or sitting in an appointment waiting for in an office waiting for a doctor's appointment. Whenever Jesus makes such a request, the response has to be immediate. "Let me think it over," or "I'll get back with you later," are not options. So let's return to the Gospel of St. Luke again and look at another example of Jesus making a request, or actually this is the angel Gabriel making a request. God spoke to the Virgin Mary through his messenger, the Archangel Gabriel, and I will read from the Gospel of St. Luke. The angel came to Mary and said, "Hail, you who are full of grace, the Lord is with you." When Mary heard the angel's greeting, she was troubled and pondered in her mind what this kind of greeting could mean. The angel said, "Do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. Behold, you shall conceive in your womb and bear a son, and you shall name him Jesus. He shall be great and shall be called the Son of the Most High." The Gospel of the Lord.
And thanks be to God.
So with no advanced warning, Mary is informed that she was to be the mother of the Son of God. The decision would have great consequences in her life and the lives of her family members. Being pregnant and unmarried, her very life would be in danger. Think of how most of you and most of us, including myself, handle life-changing decisions. What do you do when you have to make a decision? Do you like to think it over? Research a little bit? Mary could have told the archangel, "Let me have some time to think about it, and I'll get back with you in a couple days. I need to talk over it with my parents, consider the pros and cons. I need to discuss it with Joseph, see what we have on our calendar." But no, Mary simply said yes, fiat. I'd also like to look at a passage in the Gospel of St. Matthew. An angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream. "Get up," the angel said, "and take the child and his mother and escape to Egypt. Stay there until I tell you, for Herod is going to search for the child and kill him." So Joseph got up during the middle of the night, took the child and his mother, and left for Egypt. The Gospel of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Now, what do most people do when they have to make a trip like this? How could Joseph have reacted? Perhaps he could have said, "Okay, tomorrow morning I'll get up early and plan the route we'll take. Later in the morning, I'll get the supplies I need and get everything organized. If everything goes smoothly, I can probably be on the road shortly after noon. But no, Joseph got up in the middle of the night, gathered his family, and departed. Mary didn't ask for time to think over her decision, neither did Joseph. Mary did not take time to see if God's plan fit into her plans. She chose to fit her life into God's plan and to trust in the divine will of the Father. And Joseph did the same. While I was in college, God made a strange request of me. Like Joseph stepping into Peter's boat, God stepped into my life, uninvited and unexpected. I was not seeking God's input with regard to my career choice, but God stepped in with a put out into the deep type of request. During my first 2 years in college, I had no clue what I wanted to be for a career, what I wanted to do for a career. So I decided to declare myself undecided. Being undecided worked well for me until I finished my first 2 years of college, completing the core requirements. At that point, I had to meet with my academic advisor. He told me that I could no longer be undecided. I would have to choose the career I wanted to pursue. To my amazement, I heard my voice saying, "I want to be a teacher." I had no idea where those words came from. It was clearly my voice, but I was surprised, even shocked at the words being spoken. Up until that point in my life, I had been very shy. In high school, I was terrified to stand up in front of the class, even to say my name and what school I had come from. The last career I would have expected or imagined myself choosing was to be a teacher, but it really was not me choosing. It was me being chosen. The decision to be a teacher made no sense, but then God's plan revealed to Mary and God's message to Joseph probably did not make sense either. They said yes without hesitating, and I am thankful to God that I also agreed to follow his calling for me. Now, my father was totally against this decision. He did all he could to convince me to change my mind and to choose a different career. I really couldn't discuss my career choice with my father without having an argument. Well, about a week before I was going to start my teacher education program at the University of Michigan, my dad found out that he had throat cancer. Since he was sick, I avoided arguing with him, never bringing up my career choice. Once I got into the teacher education program, I realized that I was probably born to teach. I seemed to have a gift. I was able to bring out the best in the students, and that being involved in education brought out the best in me. It was really sad that I could never talk to my father about how excited I was about my career choice. I avoided the topic, considering this the best option, since arguing and fighting didn't seem to do any good. Well, 2 years later, I was finishing my last semester. Just before Thanksgiving, my dad's health started to deteriorate rapidly. We thought he had gotten past the cancer at the expense of having his vocal cords removed, but now Dad simply started sleeping almost all day and night. He pretty much stopped eating. He seemed to have given up completely, and he refused to see a doctor. After only a couple of weeks, not only a couple of weeks, but after a couple of weeks, I was able to convince him to go to the hospital. As he remained in the hospital, the doctors could not figure out what was wrong. The cancer had not come back, but they couldn't find out what the problem was. He would lay there totally incoherent, not even recognizing me or my other family members. No one knew what to expect. On Tuesday, December 6, 1977, I decided to stop at the hospital after school ended. I could only stay for a while because I had to attend a seminar that evening. When I arrived at the hospital, the nurse on duty informed me that the doctors had figured out what was wrong with my father. It was simply anemia, pernicious anemia. It had deteriorated so badly that they didn't recognize it. I was assured that within a few days my dad would be totally healthy, ready to come home from the hospital. I walked into his room. He was actually sitting up on the bed, alert and lucid. We talked for a while, and then I told him I had to go to a seminar. And then my father did something very unusual. He took my hand and he said, "Good luck with your teaching." This was so out of character with everything he had said in the past that I was really taken by surprise. I simply said, "Thank you," and then I left. As it turns out, those were the last words my father would ever speak to me. That night I woke up from my sleep at exactly 4 in the morning. I felt so wide awake that it seemed like it was the middle of the day. 45 minutes later, the call came from the hospital. Come right away. Your dad has taken a turn for the worse. My dad died from a heart attack at exactly 4 in the morning. The death of my father has had profound impact on my spiritual beliefs for 2 reasons. First, on the night of his death, I woke up from a sound sleep at the exact time of my dad's passing. My dad's spirit came by the house on its way to his next life. This is evidence for me that the soul or spirit continues to exist after physical death. How else can it be explained? Second, on my visit to the hospital that day before my dad died, he gave me his approval and made his peace with me. At some spiritual level, I wonder if he knew somehow, some way, that he would never speak to me again. I believe he was able to sense something. My dad was telling me something he wanted me to remember for the rest of my life. The hopeful conclusion, we are more than simply bodies. Our most real existence is spiritual, and the spiritual part of us transcends space and time. So I'll end with the words of Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, and I quote, "We are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience." We thank you and God bless you.